Hello and welcome to Kingdom Gathering. This is Tim Brown again. I wanted to come back on here and make part two of this video. I'm not sure what we're going to call it just yet. I think we're going to call it Texas and the Coming Revolution and the Second Trail of Tears. But basically, I'm bringing this up because, again, I want to reiterate this. When God spoke to me in August of 2019 and told me that I have released a plague of locusts from China, we began seeing the coronavirus come upon the world stage just a couple of months later. And on August 18th of 2021, just a few weeks ago, I heard that exact same voice again, the same way that I heard it for the first time. Now, I'm not making a judgment on whether or not we're going to see anything major happening in our nation over the next few months, but with the way things are going in our nation, quite honestly, it would not surprise me at all. So on August the 18th of 2021, I was waking up and I heard the Spirit of the Lord say to me, there is going to be an even longer trail of tears. Now, I'm going to get back to that point in just a moment. In the last video, I told you about a series of 3 different dreams that I have had about moving to Texas. And I brought it up in the last video that I have no ties to Texas. I really would have no reason whatsoever to be dreaming about Texas. But one of the benefits of keeping a prayer journal and writing down your dreams and writing down the experiences that you have with God is that as you walk with God long enough, you begin to be able to put certain pieces of the puzzle together and see the journey that God has outlined for you, to know the calling that God has upon your life. So I've known for the last, at least since 2013, that at some point down the road, God is going to have my family and I move to Texas. Why, I don't know. I'm assuming it'll be for this new ministry that we're doing right now. I'm assuming some other things that I'll reveal here in just a moment. So I revealed 3 dreams in the last video. One about fleeing from a tornado into Texas. The second dream about waking up in somebody's home in Texas who's helping us find a house and a car and get situated and move to Texas. And then the third one about the reason why we're going to Texas is because we are in the middle of a revolution. There's some kind of dark political turmoil that is tearing our nation apart and has caused a revolution to happen in our nation, a changing of the flag, if you will. And that's where we opened that cylinder and we found Texas flag, okay? I want to read to you a dream that an actual family member of mine by marriage had on August the 13th of 2021, just literally last month, a few weeks ago. He had this dream and posted it on Facebook. And I'm just going to read exactly what he wrote in the dream, okay? His name is Max Tice, and he calls it the Fires, or I call it the Fires Across America dream, okay? I'm just going to read this to you. He says, I am sure that many of you have had interesting dreams which stayed with you the next day. Over the years, people have shared their dreams with me. Occasionally, it was something most unusual which actually came true. Anyway, last night I had a dream of my own that has stayed with me all day long. Normally, I would never share a dream except one from the Bible, but this one was quite disturbing. When I tell you what it is, I think that you will agree. There is no claim that it was anything more than simply a dream. No suggestion is made that it was a supernatural prophecy. I will let you speculate about that. Likely, I dreamed it because it's obvious where we are in America and where we're headed right now. If you don't want to read about it, that's your choice. If you do, then here it is. Last night, I dreamed that I saw a large map of the United States of America. On the map was a line of flames which began in the northeast around the state of New York. The line of flames followed a diagonal pattern toward California. Once it reached the west coast, the line of flames grew wider so that it spread to every state in the Union. Soon, the entire country was ablaze and consumed. In my dream, I knew why America was on fire, and it had nothing to do with climate change. It had everything to do with the conduct of so many of the people that were in it. That was the dream. Make of it whatever you will, or forget it if you like. As for me, I have long feared that America is on the brink of destruction in some form. There are many ways that could come about. In the Bible, God punished many countries when he had had enough of their corruption. In Isaiah chapter 41, verse 2, the prophet gave this description of God's rule over the nations as he predicted the destruction of Israel. He said, "Who has aroused one from the east, whom he calls in righteousness to his feet? He delivers up nations before him, and he subdues kings. He makes them like dust with his sword, as the wind-driven chaff with his bow." When God draws his sword against America, there is no power anywhere that can stop the fatal blow. The only hope is for the people in this country to repent. And at the present moment, that hardly seems like something that's going to happen. And I have to agree with him on that one. Okay? Now, I want to read one more word, a prophetic word, that was spoken to a friend of mine. And this is somebody that I have come to know over the course of the last year. He is a prophetic person. He is a prophet. And he is someone who lives in New Mexico. His name is Ken Dewey. And it was around December 10th or so of 2020, last year, that I started thinking a lot about the Texas dreams. And I started just kind of talking to my wife and wondering what in the world could happen in the United States of America that would cause our family to uproot from Tennessee, which is not something that we necessarily want to do, but what is it that could cause us to uproot our family and move to Texas? And as I had been talking to my wife about that, I came across a prophetic word that was spoken by Mr. Ken Dewey, and I just want to share it with you. Again, I'm taking things that I believe that God is showing me as confirmation of things that are coming when I put all the pieces together, and I'm sharing them with you, okay, so that you can hear them, make your own choice, pray about them, see if it lines up with things that God is showing you, okay? So this is a prophetic word, again, that I read on December 10th, 2020. Leadership from the state of Texas will arise. Good men will arise with healing, and there will be an awakening. The sleeping giant will stand up, and revival will break out. The state of Texas will arise in leadership. Leaders will come forth to replace the fallen. I saw one particular man in Texas stand up. He came into my attention, and I heard the Lord say, "Read all about him and his beliefs." I, at this time, will not put the name of this Texan that I heard mentioned, except to say he's still in leadership in Texas today. In other words, he's still around. I have watched and followed him through all of his actions, and I know that he could yet arise in a future time because he is a great man. Let it suffice to say that prophetic words concerning Texas rising up is significant. I can see how this is playing out, Ken says, how Texas has, and I believe will yet still in the days ahead, stand up to restore this nation, at least in part or in whole. I thought that was interesting that he said that, in the days yet to come. I have heard as well that there could come a serious division in the United States of America, dividing it into pieces. Remember the dream that I had about the revolution and the flag changing, right? So in the light of the now news, I can see the fulfillment in part beginning to come forth. Many have thought and even said America would fall completely and cease to be a nation. I have not heard this. But what I have heard is that this nation would come to a major difficulty, and because of the difficulty, division and civil war. But that leaders from Texas would come to reform the nation's leadership. And that's the end of his prophetic word that he released. So what I want to do now is I want to go back to what God said to me on August the 18th of 2021. Again, on August the 18th of 2021, just a few weeks ago, I was waking up and I heard the Spirit of the Lord very clearly say, there will be an even longer trail of tears. Now, I like to think of myself as a student of history, and yet I honestly don't remember a lot about the Trail of Tears when it happened in America a long time ago, except that it was, about Native Americans who were forced off of their lands by the United States government and relocated out west. That's about all I know. I think that's about mostly what most people know, right? I didn't realize that a big portion of the Trail of Tears, a big part of that story, actually happens right here in Middle Tennessee, where I currently live. I want to read you something that I found from the Oklahoma Historical Society. And this is a short synopsis of the Trail of Tears and what it's all about. And this might give us a little idea again as to what might be coming pretty soon. It says the term Trail of Tears refers to the difficult journeys that the 5 tribes took during their forced removal from the southeast during the 1830s and 1840s. The Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Seminole were all marched out of their ancestral lands to Indian Territory, or present-day Oklahoma. Although removal of American Indians began long before the 19th century, the Trail of Tears is mostly associated with the forced removals that took place after the 1830 Indian Removal Act. Now, this particular website, this little synopsis does not record it, but this 1830 Indian Removal Act, it happened under the Democrat president Andrew Jackson. And Andrew Jackson was from my home state of Tennessee. And I can tell you, I love American history. He's probably one of my least favorite presidents. He was a racist, horrible president. And I've included down below a link to his speech that he spoke on December the 6th of 1830. It's his speech to Congress about the Indian removal. And man, I mean, look, I'm not going to get into the politics, but he was a progressive Democrat, okay? They had progressive ideas back then, just like they have progressive ideas now. And basically whatever they feel fits the utopia for what they're trying to create in this world for at the time what they thought was manifest destiny for the United States of America, we kind of see the same thing happening today. It's the same spirit. It's the same totalitarian type attitude that we see happening today. And I think that plays into a little bit into what God is saying about the coming second Trail of Tears. Let me continue with the synopsis. So the Trail of Tears differed for each of the nations, but all Indians suffered. The marches usually began when federal troops rounded up those who resisted removal. The journeys, usually more than 1,000 miles, lasted several weeks. A shortage of wagons and horses and food and other supplies made the marches difficult. Some traveled by boat, but the conditions there were usually no better. The U.S. government did not provide enough supplies to sustain the travelers during their march and after their arrival. An exceptionally harsh winter plagued the Choctaw, the first nation to face the forced migration, leaving in several groups in 1831 more than, listen to this, 14,000 Choctaws left Mississippi. French observer Alexis de Tocqueville described one journey as a sight that will never fade from my memory. He noted that the snow was hard on the ground and huge masses of ice drifted on the river. The Indians brought their families with them. There were among them the wounded, the sick, newborn babies, and old men on the point of death. They had neither tents nor wagons, but only some provisions and weapons. Hundreds of Choctaws died. For other Indians, disease and malnutrition proved equally devastating. After losing the Creek War of 1836 and 1837, the United States, more than 14,500 Creek Indians faced the additional indignation of being forced to leave their lands and forced to march west, often in chains. Several hundred Creeks died during the journey, and approximately 3,200 died from disease, malnutrition, and exposure after their arrival in Indian Territory. Disease also took a toll on the Chickasaw, who lost more than 500 men, women, and children to smallpox. The Cherokee experience was perhaps the most severe of all. As many as 1 out of every 4 Cherokee died because of their westward journey. This article doesn't say it, but the reason why the Trail of Tears is called the Trail of Tears is that that's the phrase, that's the term that was given to it by the Native Americans themselves, because literally thousands of people dropped dead along the way as they were being forced out of their lands to go somewhere else because the government did not want them there anymore. Think about that for a moment. I want to show you this map and why I think this all ties together with Texas and the coming second Civil War, or the coming second revolution as I heard it in my dream, or the fires that are going to come across the nation and divide the nation as Max Tice related in his dream. This is a map. There's many of them out there, but this is a map showing what the Trail of Tears look like. These are the places where the Native Americans were forced to leave their lands. If you look up here in blue, you can see the blue arrow. This is the Cherokee Indians that were removed from their ancestral lands out of southeast Tennessee, down into Georgia, Alabama. They marched north up through Kentucky, all the way through Missouri, and they were forced to relocate into the state of Oklahoma. Now, I want to go back to what I heard on August the 18th of 2021. There will be an even longer Trail of Tears. If you look to the left of your screen here, you can see that most of these Native American tribes were forced into the Oklahoma Territory. If you go a little further, if there is an even further Trail of Tears, what state will they come to? Texas. Texas. So when I put all these things together, again, I can't predict the future. But I've learned over the years that God prepares things beforehand so that way when they begin to happen, they're not quite as shocking. I've known through probably 10 or 12 dreams and visions over the last 6 years that I was going to be let go and fired from my previous congregation that I served. I knew it was coming a long time before it actually happened. And when it did happen, it didn't surprise me. God has been preparing our family for the next phase of our journey, and I know that at some point, probably pretty soon, God is going to have our family relocate to Texas. Why? It seems as though, and I'm conjecturing here, that in the not too distant future, there's going to come massive civil unrest in our nation, to the point that there may be a second civil war, a revolution of some kind, but certainly something that's going to pit one group of people against another. And because of that, because of the turmoil, because of the darkness and the destitute times that we will be a part of, that there will be, for whatever reason, a migration of people from one state to another, from some states to other states. Again, why? I don't know. But it seems as though that there is coming a second great Trail of Tears. Folks, this is the reason why I said in my last video that it is very important for us at this time to repent and come as close to God as we possibly can. I'm not a prepper. I don't have the money to prep like a lot of people do. So the most important type of preparation that you can make in this time is to seek the Lord with all of your heart and to learn how to hear his voice for yourself so that you can know what his will is for your life and for the difficult days that we have in front of us. I hope that you have taken some blessing and benefit from hearing these words from the Lord, hearing these dreams. If you have any comments that you would like to make, please put them down below. If you want to share this video, please do so. Subscribe. Make sure you turn on the notifications so that you can find future videos. I have another couple of videos that I'm going to record here in just a moment of some further dreams that God has given me over the last few years that I think also give some context as to why we're about to go into some difficult times. So until then, God bless you. Thank you for coming to the Kingdom Gathering channel, and have a great rest of your day. Bless you.